You're listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA legends, pros and top instructors come to share their stories, insights and tips. Now, back to you, Chris.
Hi, folks. Now joining me here on the French Lick Resort guest line is PGA Tour Pro Cameron Beckman. Let me give you a little more background on Cameron. He is from Minneapolis, Minnesota, played his college golf at Texas Lutheran University, where he won the NAIA National Championship in 1991, turned pro in 1993. He was a Lone Star Tour Player of the Year back in 1994, earned his first win on the PGA Tour at the Southern Farm Bureau Classic in 2001, finishing that tournament 19 under par, winning by one stroke over Chad Campbell. He has two other wins on tour at the 2008 Prize.com Open and the 2010 Mayakoba Golf Classic. He's currently playing out on the Web.com Tour, and I'm very excited he is with me tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Cameron, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me on. Yeah, you're really you're jogging my memory at all those good times I had.
Well, that's good. That's what we're here to do. Let's talk about the good times.
1991 was a long time ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, to some of us it is, and some of us it's right around the corner, right? Not that far behind if you really think about it. It's a blink of an eye a lot of times.
It seems like time is slow, that's for sure.
Cameron, I want to start by going back to the beginning for you. I always like to ask a first-time guest, when you started playing the game of golf, and who was the first person to put a club in your hands?
It was actually my mother. She was a teacher, and we lived on a par 3 golf course, and I spent pretty much all summer with her playing it's called Burnhamwood, and it was just right in our neighborhood, and I went out there every day and played, started pretty young, and just played with her, and my father never was able to play. He always had a little bit of back problems, so he'd walk along, and that's how I got started playing golf.
So, Cameron, how does a kid from Minneapolis, Minnesota, end up playing his college golf down at Texas Lutheran?
Well, I got lucky actually because the coach there at the time was from North Dakota, and he was recruiting good players from Minnesota, North Dakota, and those areas, and I had qualified for the U.S. Junior Amateur the year before I went to college, and he had noticed that and offered me a half scholarship to go down there, and it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. Looking back on it, I met my wife there. It completely kind of formed my whole life, basically. Having played the tour, and it's one of the best decisions, I guess, is you could say, because I was thinking about playing hockey in college also. So it was the best decision I've ever made, I guess you could say.
And Cameron, talking about 1991, you win the individual NAIA National Championship that year. What was it like for you coming down the stretch, knowing that you had an opportunity to win yourself a national championship?
Yeah, I'd won quite a few tournaments that season, and I was. For some reason, I just really wanted to play the tour, and I say that, of course, everybody wants to play it, but I was so focused and just, I spent a lot of time in college practicing and working, and I figured if I could win that tournament, that would be a huge step, and I don't know, I was terribly focused. It's been a long time ago, and I don't really remember much about it, to be honest with you, but I just really wanted to win. I mean, I felt like, these were just stepping stones to making the tour someday. And so, I used to think like I wanted to know if I was leading and see how my golf swing would hold up and things like that. That's the type of stuff I was thinking about.
Hey, Cameron, I don't know if you remember or not, but, when you think about having come down and had that experience of winning such a big tournament and becoming a national champion, did that prepare you for what it would be like for you coming down the stretch trying to win, whether it was on the Web.com, at the time I'm sure it was the Nike.com tour, but trying to win there and ultimately winning on the PGA Tour? Did that experience help prepare you for what the nerves and all that would be like?
Yeah, I think so. I went on to, I turned pro right after college and started playing, and I played the Lone Star Tour in Texas and won a bunch of those tournaments, and then I won the Texas State Open. But, you know, it took me 6 years to get my card. I spent a ton of time playing the mini tours, the state opens, and, you know, I was playing a ton of tournaments. And you know, I was shooting pretty much 75 when I got to college. That would have been a good score for me. And improved quickly as a freshman. And then, you know, I started winning right away in the mini tour ranks. And, you know, pretty much that's all I'm thinking about and doing. And, you know, like I said, it took me 6 years to get my card.
And to that end, yeah, so to that end, I know you made it through Q school a number of times. You mentioned 6 times to get your card. And, you know, and talking to several other players, both on the PGA and the LPGA side, they've talked about the opportunities and what it was like getting through Q school. And many times talking about how it was more stressful and more difficult to get through Q school than it was to compete out on tour. Was that the same for you? What was it like trying to get through Q school for you?
Yeah, so, you know, second stage was the tougher one, because if you didn't make it to the finals, you had nothing. But at least if you made it to the finals, you'd get some sort of web, or we'll call it web now, web event or web tour type card. But it took me a long, I mean, I went through 5 of them before I got my card. And I only got to the finals once in 97. But, you know, all those experiences and all that pressure just kept me, you know, I kept learning how to do it. And then I was fortunate to actually get my card back in 99, 2000, and 2001. So I did it 3 years in a row, which, you know, getting to play on the tour for 3 years in a row was huge, because I got to play with the best players in the world. I learned so much, and then I ended up winning in 2001, which kind of jump-started me and got me cranking. But, yeah, there's, you know, just in order to really play tournament golf, you've got to play a bunch of them. You got to get in situations. You got to, you know, learn how to there's just so much to learn, because your body does different things every day, and you know, you get nervous. You got to figure out how to deal with that. And so I was fortunate, looking back, that I had sponsors that stuck with me, and then I ended up being able to play that much. There was many times through the years where I was thinking I was going to quit. And looking back on it, my dad would never let me do it. So, you know, it was just you know, there were so many times where I could have changed my whole life, basically, but if I wouldn't have played golf. So it's, you know, it's looking back, it's an interesting how it all went down to, you know, getting to play so many years on tour and things like that.
And you mentioned dealing with the nerves. How did you eventually get comfortable in that situation and deal with the nervousness of coming down the stretch?
You know, I worked with Deborah Graham. She's a psychologist who lives in San Antonio. I spent a lot of time training my brain to really enjoy the tour school. So most people would dread that. And, you know, all those years I was trying to really almost there's so much pressure on you, and then let it go and enjoy the whole process of it, the challenge of it. You know, I spent so much time trying to figure out how to think right so that you could give yourself a chance. You know, it's such a big deal. I was trying really hard, or we were working on, you know, basically bringing it down a few notches so that I could deal with it. And I played really good the 3 years in a row at all the tournaments. And and another thing is I really wanted to play the tour. And I spent a ton of time. I still work really hard at it, getting ready for kind of the Champions Tour. I love to play the game. So all this came real easy for me, because just how much I love to play it. So, and how much I wanted to do it, I guess. So, the pressures, you know, you get like tapping in on when I was winning the tournaments I won, I had a 3-footer. Just to give you an example, my hands were shaking so bad at the prize. I hit my little tap in, but that wasn't 3 feet, it was 2 feet. I hit it off the heel, and I thought I almost missed the ball. I was so nervous. So that's the kind of nerves you're dealing with. And we all know that, anybody who plays golf, and it's fun. You got to learn to love it. And so that's basically the mindset I was using to be successful at the tour schools.
Hey, so Cameron, I want to get into a little more detail about your first PGA Tour victory at the Southern Farm Bureau Classic back in '01, and you won that tournament. Charging down the back nine, you birdied 3 of the final 5 holes. What was it like making that charge and then finally sealing your first PGA Tour win?
Yeah, that's I had so that season I had just played good somewhere, I can't remember where, but I had secured my card for the next year, so it was the first time I'd really been able to pretty much freewheel and play in golf tournaments without worrying about keeping my job. And I remember that Sunday I was standing in the first tee. I was really relaxed. I felt confident about it. That golf course I've had a ton of good finishes on since then, but I love the golf course. And it was just, I made a ton of putts. I putted great. I don't know. It was just the frame of mind was so right. And, of course, like I said, I wanted it so bad. I just, it's hard to explain. I just, I think I birdied 17 to take the 1-shot lead up, and then it just had to par 18, which is a par 5. So it was, and thankfully my wife was there. She had flown in that morning, and we obviously had a good time after that day, or that night. It was a good time.
Are you a scoreboard watcher? Were you aware going on 18 that, all you had to do was make par and you were going to win this tournament?
Well, I was playing with Chad, and he actually, we had to lay up because it was into the wind on 18 there at Annandale. And he hit first, and he spun it back off the green. So I knew that, he's chipping. So I was pretty, I wasn't positive, obviously. He could have still chipped it in, but I just hit it on the green, and I had a 10-footer or something like that. I just had to 2-putt that to win after he missed his chip. But so that was nice. What were you wondering? Say that again about how it all went.
I just was curious. Were you a scoreboard watcher? Did you know?
Oh yeah.
On 18 if I make par, I'm going to win.
Yeah, because I was playing with Chad. That's kind of what I was getting at. Is that when I knew nobody else was, I had looked at a couple holes before. I think he and I were up in front by a couple shots, and so I was pretty sure that it was just he and I. And Chad's a good friend of mine. I've always liked him. He's a good dude, and he had just come off I think he was playing. I think he had won got the Battlefield promotion from the Web Tour, and was playing some tournaments late in the fall there, and I'm pretty sure that was like his first season on tour, and we've been good buddies ever since.
Cameron, Sean McKeel has become a wonderful friend, here on the show, and he just turned 50 back in January. That's not typically a birthday anybody looks forward to, but I know Sean was, so that he could, and you mentioned going out on the Champions Tour. He has been looking forward to the opportunity to go out and play on that tour. You've got a little over 9 months until you turn 50. Are you looking forward to 50 or no?
I am. I've been, I'm hoping a lot of people tell me to just be patient. It's kind of like starting your career over. And I'll tell you what, this golf course we're playing at this Web is 7,600 yards. I'd like to get down into the 6,800 instead of 7,600 or 7,000, So, I'm looking forward to it. The last 5 years have been tough. I haven't been playing much. There's not a lot to play for as far as I enjoyed trying to keep my card. I like trying to stay out there. I like all that stuff. So I'm sort of looking forward to getting a little, kind of a rejuvenated type career where I can work towards something again. And it's been a great 5 years in that I've got to raise my kids and watch them grow up. So no complaints on that, but I am looking forward to, trying to be competitive out there and get back out there and play a lot. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to right now.
Some of the other things, Cameron, as I was looking back over the course of your career at the 2010 Byron Nelson Championship, you tied the course record shooting 61 in the second round. And at one point during that round, you birdied 5 holes in a row, 6 out of 7 as well. And you birdied 16 to conceivably, had you birdied 17 and 18, you could have shot 59. Were you aware, was 59 on your mind coming down the stretch?
Yeah, I think I birdied 7. Can't remember if that was 16 or I think it was 7. And then, I was definitely thinking about it. I remember thinking about trying to make the putt on the last hole for 60, but, it was one of those days where all the putts were going in, and you see it all the time now where, guys have those days where they're just, everything seems to be going right. And I had finished in the morning. I think we had a rain delay, so I had played like maybe 4 or 5 holes in the morning before that round, and I felt good then, and just took it right into the 18 holes in the afternoon, and it was obviously a lot of fun.
And yeah, as I looked at the leaderboard, you ended up finishing 5th that week behind Jason Day. But that was also the tournament where Jordan Spieth, at age 16, tied for 16th. Did you get a chance to meet a young Jordan Spieth and have any conversation with him at that tournament?
I did not get to meet him. In fact, I've never met him. He's kind of came onto the tour after I've been off, and I've just never met him. I know he's a great kid, and I say kid, he's obviously much more than that, but just a good person, and I'd like to meet him. I just never have.
Hey, Cameron, looking back at some of the other tournaments you played in 2000, you were there at the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach when Tiger essentially lapped the field by 15 strokes. What do you remember about being a part of that event?
Oh, yeah, that was a great, that was, to play Pebble Beach in the U.S. Open was really a neat thing. And, of course, he played awesome, and it was fun. I got to play in his era. I played a lot of tournaments with him and played with him, and it's really good to see what he's doing right now. It's just so great for the game, and it's fun to watch, that's for sure.
And Cameron, when you look at life out on, you're out on the web.com tour playing now, the PGA Tour, and looking obviously ahead to the Champions Tour, but how do the tours compare to now for when you first came out there with all the amenities and the equipment trucks and the fitness trailers and all of that sort of stuff? Was it like that when you first came up on tour, or has the tour evolved a lot over the last, go back to 01, 18 years or so?
Yeah, it's evolved a ton. It's there's always been the equipment stuff and the trailers and that, but now it's such a high. You can just see the club manufacturer. There's a lot of pressure on them to get players to use stuff. It's just a lot more. It's much more intense. We got guys using TrackMans and stuff like that. Nobody would ever even thought of that. All the working out. It's just it's a much more routine-oriented type golf, I would say now. Everybody's kind of into their own thing. We used to go out and have a beer, go out and have fun. It just doesn't feel like that anymore. It's just, I think because the money is, we're playing for a lot of money, and so they're taking it very seriously, and it's just a totally different environment. And but the kids they're young. There's a lot. I was 29 when I started, and that was I guess I would be considered old now compared to these kids. But it's just a lot more serious. I don't know that it's exactly serious, but it's not the same. I think it's because of the money, and it's just changed the tour. And obviously, the tour is doing great, and it's a great organization, and it's a great place to play, that's for sure. And it's been fun watching it evolve, to be honest with you.
Cameron, just a couple of more before we let you go, and we'll talk about the advancements in technology. At 49, are you hitting the ball the same distance or further than when you first came out on tour? How has technology changed your game?
Yeah, I'm definitely hitting it. I hit it at least as far, if not further now. Just doing the conditioning, the stretching. I do a lot of yoga and the Peloton and do all this. I'm in much better shape than I was back then. Even though I was young, I say that I was younger and obviously stronger, but just the technology, the balls don't curve as much. It's a totally different game. The balls are flying higher. We were taught to keep the ball down. You would never hit the ball straight up in the air because you wouldn't know where it was coming down. I watch these kids now, and it scares me how high they hit the ball. And, the distances, are just crazy. Also, obviously hitting any kind of 330 in the air, that would, that's, to me, is just nuts. And obviously everybody knows that it's fun to watch. And I think the tour decided at some point they kind of got rid of the rough on the tour. It's more fun for the player or the audience to watch guys hit it 350 yards, and make birdies. And so that's one of the things I've noticed playing is that the rough is down. There was tournaments where we'd play when we had to pitch out if you hit it in the rough. There was so much rough. It's coming a long way, and I think it's a great product, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Have the advancements in technology impacted your game outside of just pure distance? What else are you seeing from a technology standpoint? You mentioned TrackMan earlier. What else are you seeing that has changed the game? I
grew up with the hidden woods. The little bitty, the real woods. These kids, even my son, he hits it a long ways just because he's never had to deal with the snap hooks or any of the, that little head. So they get to bang on it right away, And I think that's pretty much what's changed. That's why you're seeing so much power, is because the club heads are so much easier to hit than way back when. And that's one of the things that I think is a big deal. And the ball doesn't curve as much. I would say that's another part of it. And, even the putters are so much better. They're easier to putt with. Just everything's, they just made the game easier. And to me, they've made it more fun. So I'm all for it. I think it's great. I love watching the guys bang it. I don't have a problem with it at all.
So as you mentioned a couple of times throughout the course of the interview so far, you're playing out on the web.com tour. You're over in Nashville this week for the Nashville Open?
That's it. Yep. Golf course is the Nashville Golf Club or Golf and Athletic Club, I think it is. Really nice place.
Cameron, let our listeners know, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're doing and follow you online or on social media?
Yeah, I do the Facebook stuff and a little bit of the Instagram, but I'm kind of old school. I'm not totally really involved in all that stuff yet, but I'll be going to the tour school for the Champions Tour in the fall, and hopefully I'll have some success there and get right into it and start playing next year. But other than if I don't do that, I'll be doing Monday qualifiers, and I'll get into some events, and that's about it. Other than that, I'll be just raising those kids at home,
Well, Cameron, it has been great having you as part of the show tonight. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening over there in Nashville to come and join me. I hope you'll come back and do it again sometime. Love to keep track of all the great things you're doing.
Oh, anytime. I enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for having me out.
You bet. Cameron, all the best to you and your family. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
See you, Cameron. That is Cameron Beckman. And again, he's over there in Nashville at the Nashville Open over on the web.com tour this weekend. Looking forward to getting him out on the Champions Tour. He's got about 9 months until he turns 50. So we'll look forward to catching up with him there. But in between now and then, please check him out on Facebook, Cameron Beckman. And let's hope that we get the privilege of having him back on the show again real soon.